Hey, what's up, everybody? This is Tony, and I guess it's about time. It's about time to officially do something different. I feel like I do something different frequently, but the different I want to do now is I want to establish a new show that comes out multiple times a week, and we're going to call it The Cruise Show. So, this is The Cruise Show, episode 1. If you've been around La Lido Loca for a while, you know that we do a lot of stuff here, that I do a lot of stuff. And, we take you through the cruise news. We talk about what happens on cruise ships. We give you some cruise tips. We give you some cruise vlogs. But interestingly, I don't have a huge presence in the podcast space. Do you have the La Lido Loca Cruise Podcast, which been using that as kind of an interview vehicle where I talk to other cruise content creators. But I don't really have anything there where I talk about the cruise news. And I've talked to my friend Doug Parker at Cruise Radio. I've talked to my friend Tommy Casabona at the Always Be Booked Cruise Podcast. And I'm always somewhat complaining as not really complaining, but a lot of times we'll talk shop between the fellas. And I'm like, I really wish I had a better presence in the podcast space. I just don't really know how to do a solo podcast. And I'm pretty sure it's Tommy who said several times, dude, you're talking 10, 15, 20 minutes a day. You're essentially doing a cruise podcast with your daily show. And then, separately to, build on top of that, Doug Parker said several times, I'm not sure why you don't put your daily show out in audio format. And so there's been a lot evolving behind the scenes. And this is just a little probably housekeeping that won't necessarily be in every episode, but I wanted to give some sort of explanation of how we are here at the Cruise Show episode 1. This will be both a video presentation and an audio presentation that you can listen to as frequently as I publish it. You know that in the past I have been almost a daily uploader, but I haven't daily uploaded this show in this format or the old version of this show in this format. It's always been a mix, like I said, of kind of this in-studio presentation or cruise tips or story time or cruise vlogs. And so, what I'm saying is that whenever I do the show in this format, it will be in both video and audio, presentations. So you'll be able to watch this on YouTube, of course. And if you would like to hear this while you're at the gym or your commute to work or on a walk or wherever you listen to things and you're not watching things, then you'll be able to get this also wherever you can get podcasts. So for your face, particularly your eyes and your ears going forward. I don't really know what the format of this show will be. I don't have any music and I don't have any bits or I don't have anything. I'm really just trying to clean the slate and start fresh. There's been a lot of great connection points in the past, whether it was the Cruise Jazz Hands or the Catchy Horn theme show or the dance break or so many other things. And I know that there will be things like that, connection points going forward when it comes to the cruise show. But I thought I would just start at the beginning. We'll just do a stripped down presentation of things that are going on in cruising, both cruise news stories and cruise drama, all the things that I love and that I know some of you guys love out there also. So without much further ado, please subscribe if you want the video presentations of this somewhat daily show. Subscribe on YouTube. And if you want it in your ears, go to where you get podcasts. It might take a couple days for this thing to spin up audibly, but make sure that you're looking for the Cruise Show wherever you find podcasts. All right, let's talk about what's going on in cruising. I've got a couple update stories. I've got an interesting story about possibly a new Carnival partnership. But let's start with the weekend. It was a challenging weekend for cruise ships because of wind. And wildly, this was wind all over the world. Friday, Holland America's Westerdam was docked in Ketchikan, and it broke its mooring line moving away from the dock, causing its gangway to fall into the water. We also had the Norwegian Epic impacted. Norwegian Epic was docked in Sicily when she broke her lines and pushed off of the dock. The gangway collapsed and we had a passenger go into the water. Passenger was saved by her husband and the quick actions of the crew. And then finally, the MSC Seascape broke free from her moorings. We had a line snap in the Bahamas at MSC's private island, Ocean Key. This occurred when passengers were embarking and disembarking the ship there in Ocean Key, and we did have one passenger injury. All of these incidents caused delay for passengers as the ship had to redock and retie off. I think it's easy to forget that in bad weather or even mild weather, that these huge cruise ships, multi-deck cruise ships, they act like a sail when gusts of winds hit them, and they're easily put under pressure by the wind. I just don't remember a scenario where we've had 3 ships break free within such a short period of time. But fortunately, minor injuries only. It sounds like only a couple injuries across the 3 incidents. So yeah, be careful embarking and disembarking, especially on windy days. Be mindful that the gangway, even though it's secure, may not always be secure. Now, I do have a couple updates to stories that we've covered in the past. Do you remember Courtney Mo? She was the TikToker who posted her smuggling something onto a Carnival cruise with a caption about beating the drink package. These are rum runners. Rum runners are typically used to smuggle alcohol on cruise ships. They're deceitful. They're, shaped like feminine hygiene products or shampoo bottles. And well, Courtney posted that they were able to sneak these rum runners on board a Carnival cruise ship. Well, Carnival saw the video and they banned them for life, citing that they were showing other people how to sneak stuff on cruise ships, citing that they were attempting to sneak alcohol on board. Well, the update is interesting. Courtney posted another video saying, yeah, I got banned by Carnival, but there's no way to prove that that was actually alcohol that I snuck on board. And by the way, it was not alcohol. It was juice. I was just trying to prove a point. I was just trying to show something, and it wasn't really alcohol. And I don't think it's fair that I got banned for life from Carnival, and I may take legal action. Now, obviously, the way that Carnival phrases the ban, and I'm pretty sure they phrased it under the guise of they were caught showing people how to do something, how to break the rules. So I think they may have an out there, and who knows if Courtney's actually going to sue Carnival. But she's saying, look, this is not fair. It's all a misunderstanding. I didn't actually sneak alcohol, and how would anybody prove that I snuck alcohol on board? Even though in the comments and stuff, in the caption, she referenced trying to beat the drink package. I don't know. What do you think? Do you think Courtney should be able to appeal her ban? And if they can't prove that it was actually alcohol, should she not be banned? I did mention my friend Tommy Casabona earlier on his Always Be Book podcast from a few days ago, from last week. Go check that out. He's saying that that's not normally what they do with this alcohol sneaking, that they, it's up to Carnival to catch the alcohol before they get on board and, to deal with it accordingly. This post ban may not be fair. Interesting take. It's a tough one. What do you think? Do you think lifetime ban is a fair punishment for this violation? Or do you think Carnival may be setting an example of Courtney? Yeah, interesting stuff. Another update story, and this goes back to the 80s cruise that I was on. Sadly, on the very first night of that cruise, there was an incident where the longtime girlfriend of one of the lead singers of one of the bands on board jumped off the cruise ship. Kimberly Burch jumped off of the cruise ship that I was on, and it was after some sort of argument between her and the lead singer of the metal band Faster Pussycat. His name is Tamie Downe. And now, after all these months, Tamie Downe is speaking out. He did an interview on XM radio. In the interview, he said, what happened with Kimberly, it was alcohol and prescription related. So I blame alcohols and pills on it. I've got some hatred for booze because I love the hell out of Kimberly, and it was hard to deal with. We basically spent 9 years together. And that's really all he said about it. There was an investigation. There was clear footage that showed her jumping off of the cruise ship. And so now we're starting to hear from Tamie Downe. And, beyond that, he talks about Kimberly as his partner for life. And he's really struggling with the fact that she's gone. And so, it's such a sad story. I remember, how weird it felt on the cruise ship. That was the first time I'd ever been on a ship where something like that happened. a lot of people ask, like, do people go on and continue to have a good cruise? Yeah, it's wild how we do have the ability to compartmentalize the fact that something so tragic happened, but at the same time, we're also there on a cruise. So I didn't see a lot of people stopping the fun that they were having because of the tragedy. And, to be fair, I think you can do both things. I think you can be sad for the tragedy, but at the same time, I think you can go on and have a good time. And that's certainly what happened on that cruise. I don't know what he's saying, if that's bringing much solace to her family or anything like that, but certainly probably part of his healing process is being able to talk about it a little bit, and certainly people have questions about it. So there you go. All right, we got big Royal Caribbean news. What will be the world's largest cruise ship, Royal Caribbean Star of the Seas, has completed her sea trials, and apparently all is well because, well, they've added another sailing to Star of the Seas. Originally, their first maiden voyage sailing August the 31st, and that's still going to be officially titled the Maiden Voyage Cruise. But they have put in place, Royal Caribbean has already put in place some preview cruises, some 3 and 4 night cruises. One of them I am on. I booked the August the 20th sailing of Star of the Seas, just a 3-day sailing. It will be my birthday cruise. How about that? It will be my birthday cruise. And I thought that was going to be the first sailing of Star of the Seas. I'm not mad about it or anything like that, but I did think that was going to be the first sailing of Star of the Seas. Well, they've added another one that will be leaving from Port Canaveral on August the 16th, 2025. And so, it is kind of hard to nail down what the very first sailing of this ship is going to be. I'm assuming that as they continue to get it prepared, who knows? Maybe they'll continue to be early and they'll be like, all right, let's just go right now. But I'm excited. I'm excited to be on Star of the Seas. I haven't sailed on Icon yet, so I'm excited to experience that Icon class. And congratulations, Star of the Seas, for passing your sea trials, and congratulations, Royal Caribbean, for being early. And I guess since we're talking about the efforts cruise companies are going through to get ships ready for service, let's talk about the beleaguered Regal Princess. You know the story. Regal Princess had a tough time in Galveston because one of its engines kept having trouble. I don't want to say failing, but cruises were disrupted and people were unhappy in Texas because of that. And since then, Princess is essentially pulled out of Galveston. I don't know if that's a forever thing, and I don't know if it was a direct correlation to the troubles with the Regal Princess, but all that aside, Regal Princess has been worked on recently. There's a company called Damon Ship Repair that basically hoisted up the Regal Princess at a dry dock in Rotterdam in the Netherlands and dropped a new engine block in it. Sounds like one of them shade tree mechanic jobs. This is a big deal because, one of the things that will hurt your reputation big time is if your cruise ships will not get people to the places that they need to go. And the wild thing about this engine block replacement is much of the prep work for this work was done while passengers were on board. So you had people from Damon Ship Repair going on board during regular sailings, working down in the engine room, doing the prep work so that they could have a very quick dry dock. All of this work was actually done in April, both the prep work and the replacement work done in April. And Regal Princess started sailing with guests again May the 9th, kicking off its summer program in Northern Europe. So far, we've made it a month without any breakdown stories for the Regal Princess. So hopefully the repair work hopefully everything works good going forward. And hopefully Princess puts another ship in Galveston. I think that would be a real miss to not have a Princess presence in Galveston. But that's just me. Now, let's talk about an interesting situation that is brewing in the Bahamas. They've been doing the math, and some crazy numbers are coming out. Last year in 2024, there were a record 9.4 million cruise passengers that traveled to the Bahamas, and that accounted for 83% of the Bahamas' overall tourism. And they looked at those staggering numbers and said, wow, that's a lot of people coming to the Bahamas. That's a large percentage of our tourism. Surely cruise lines represent a huge part of the money that we're making from tourism. And well, they don't think that it does. They feel like that the cruise industry is working down there in the Bahamas and that they are not giving the Bahamas, the local economy, back enough money. Now, the interesting thing is the money that the Bahamas gets from cruise lines has been agreed upon contractually, but the prime minister there in the Bahamas is concerned because the deal that they made does not equal a lot of money for the Bahamas. And a lot of this hinges around the private islands and the amount of money that the cruise lines are making from their private islands. Think about this. Every day, those private islands are flooded with cruise ship workers. Those are workers that are not Bahamian. They're also being flooded with goods and services that are for sale, that are not necessarily for sale from Bahamian vendors. Imported goods, services like rentals, chair rentals, cabana rentals, equipment rentals. All of that stuff is not equating money to the Bahamas. And so unsurprisingly, the leadership in the Bahamas are like, dude, all of this money is being generated because of the Bahamas, but the Bahamas are not getting a lot of this money. We need to revamp the tax situation here. We need to revamp what taxes and what duties we're putting on these services and these goods that are being generated by the cruise lines. But we have this agreement in place. So it's going to be interesting because the Bahamas have recognized their need to realize more revenue from the massive amount of cruisers that are coming to the Bahamas, but they're a little tied up because they've already made agreements with the cruise lines. So essentially what that means is they won't just be able to start throwing taxes on things willy-nilly. They're going to have to, show their intention to tax. Then they're going to have to work with the cruise lines in the existing agreements, and then they're going to have to forge new agreements going forward. But the end result is the Bahamas are looking to get more money from the cruise tourism. And look, that desire to get more money makes a lot of sense because even to have cruises in the Bahamas, the Bahamian government, they've invested a lot of money in infrastructure. They've invested a lot of their own government money that they need to recoup, the money of the people, tax money. They need to recoup that because obviously they want to be a welcoming place to cruise passengers, but they can't go broke doing it. So it'll be interesting to see what, if any, new deal is struck, and even if it results in a higher price for consumers to go to the Bahamas. All right, now let's talk turkey or chicken. Yeah, let's talk chicken and a possible new partnership for Carnival Cruise Line. Recently, a concerned cruiser wrote to the Carnival brand ambassador, John Heald, with an impassioned plea. This is what he said. John, thinking of street eats that you have on Jubilee. What's missing is Costco rotisserie chicken. Have you tried it, John? It is the most popular chicken in America. The entirety of its meat is moist, both the light and the dark. I know this would be an awesome collab to have for Carnival. It would bring new cruisers to Carnival. There is a lot in that impassioned plea. Is rotisserie chicken from Costco the most popular chicken in America? I live in the heart of Publix country, and I would say that Publix fried chicken is considered by many the most popular chicken in America, or at least Florida. But then I also spent close to 40 years in Nashville, Tennessee, and dagnabbit, Nashville hot chicken is some of the best chicken I've ever had in my life. Costco rotisserie chicken is good, but if you put Costco rotisserie chicken in front of me and Winn-Dixie rotisserie chicken in front of me and Sam's rotisserie chicken in front of me, I don't know that I could tell you the difference. So first and foremost, let's settle that question. What is the most popular chicken in America? And number two, would that be a purchasing decision? If you were sitting there looking at Carnival and Royal and Norwegian Cruise Line, would you be asking your travel professional, any of them have Costco rotisserie chicken? Oh, Carnival, book me there. Do you think that's a purchasing decision? I don't know. What do you think? Would this be an awesome new collaboration for Carnival Cruise Line? Dump Shaq's Big Chicken and go with the big warehouse Costco Big Chicken? Or is that just silly? Is that just silly? Well, there you go, folks. That is your cruise show for June the 3rd, 2025. How you feeling? Participating in the show. Jump in the comments anywhere there are comments, or you can send me an email, tony@thecruiseshow.tv, and I'll do my best to answer it on the cruise show. Thank you so much for watching and listening. This is Tony, and until the next time, we'll see you on the Lido. Bye.